All right, I'll fix that some other time. Okay, so this is, so bar grows on this. This is and if you've walked around in Farrell, you'll see it has a nice poster for this one, right? So this is flavor pairing. Fun thing to do, right? So you get recipes and so on from the web and look at how, so you have, now we're going to think about things like, so, okay, sorry, we're talking about bipartite networks, right? Bipartite affiliation networks, so, or various versions of that. So you have, and I'll show you a few examples, but basically, yeah, you have some, two different kinds of nodes now. Simple thing, right? So we're going to say, boards and directors. And then there are these emergent properties of these, boards sharing directors or directors sharing boards, movies and actors, another example. The movie actor graph thing, when we talk about that, which is, in the original Small World paper and so on. So what people have done usually is just take a movie, take a list of actors, take another movie list of actors, and if you're in the same movie as someone else, you're connected. So you make all these little cliques. If there are 30 actors, every one of them is connected to everyone else. So you make these cliques, and then forget about the movies, right? Then you have this actor graph. But of course, the movie graph is interesting as well, and how that kind of percolates down through time. So I think the main thing out of this paper was this division between Western and Eastern food. So Eastern foods, like sweet and sour, there's a pairing of opposites or quite distinct flavors. And so they were able to sort of show that. Is it true? Whereas it's more, in Western flavors are more, things that are more compatible. So a lot of fun there. This one is, this is recipe recommended, so this is ingredient networks, right? So this is whether ingredients co-occur. So people had a lot of fun with this one. Yuru Lin, who's in the middle here, she's at Pittsburgh now. Lada Adamic is at Facebook. She's in the Facebook data science team. So people have had some fun with these things, and you can imagine, of course, not just bipartite, but tripartite and so on, so on, so on, right? And one that I've always have wanted to do is, get into like Metacritic, for example, where you have movies and critics and actors and the reviews and what users think and what, right? So you have this kind of big evolving thing in time. Hidalgo, right, is famous for this. It kind of stands up, but it's countries, and then countries would be similar to each other based on whether they share similar exports in this work. So that would be a bipartite kind of structure. This is a very, a lot of things have happened to make this figure. This is a fair way away from the hairball it probably should be. So, but it looks good. Networks and creativity, this is pretty interesting. So this is, I'd like to see how well this all holds up. It's 2005, it was a science paper. Louis Chameral is part of this. So very nice idea. It's looking at data from academic literature, so that's social psychology, economics, and ecology, and so they have the papers, and then they have the authors, right? So you can see how authors, whether they stay together or they move and so on. So you have these teams forming and falling apart, but they also had Broadway, and so these are the creative people writing Broadway musicals. Again, teams that change and coalesce, and they create a little model for it, which would be an interesting thing to really try and, there's only so much time. I haven't worked through this one in detail, but you can see it's sort of there's a newcomer, there's some probability of this new team, people falling out of it or joining and so on, right? So the people repeating, I guess they were able to broadly show some of the things that happen. Yeah. So, of course, team performance, right? You have success here. You have how well the musical did, and you have citations for papers. So you can connect these things. human disease network. This is connecting diseases to genetic information. Same kind of thing. You know, the whole, like, let's sequence it. We're sequencing the genome, which is great, that's good, but then the extra bit of the story will now solve every human problem you can ever imagine, right? No one will ever be sick. I mean, this is really how this was portrayed. I guess, was this the late 90s, is that right? It was really portrayed like that in the media and certainly by the companies involved, but as it turns out, you know, this is like having the alphabet and trying to figure out what a book is, right? So it's very important, and certainly some diseases it's just straight up genetic issue, right? There's a really easy one to fix. So we can see all of those now, but the ones that are more complicated, you know, like autoimmune diseases and so on, they can involve, well, we know, you know, we're at the point where we say, oh, this involves 100 genes. So we kind of know this is some big kind of crazy thing that's happening. So we're getting there, but it is definitely becomes much more of a system problem. This is a fun one for the math people. So this is primes and natural numbers, right? So you can look at, right, so here's 2 and it's connected to 8, so you can separate the composites and the primes and think about that network structure. I guess there's a power law size distribution for degrees in these things. I don't know if this is an interesting paper. I don't know if it advanced what people understood. I mean, obviously people have been thinking about prime numbers very deeply for a long time. So that's good. Yeah, very nice. So lots of things.